Most people grow up believing that money is the reward of intelligence. We're told that if you're clever enough, or if you graduate from the right schools, the world will reward you. But that belief is a lie. Wealth is not reserved for the naturally gifted. It belongs to those who understand strategy and have the courage to act. Machiavelli once wrote that fortune favors the bold, not the most educated, not the most naturally talented, but those who move with purpose and consistency. This video is about that exact principle. Why the people you think are too ordinary often end up richer than those who appear smarter. And why the game of wealth is less about genius and more about endurance, bold decisions, and the ability to survive when others quit. If you've ever doubted yourself, thinking you're not smart enough or qualified enough to get rich, this will change your perspective. Because the truth is simple. The world does not reward intelligence. It rewards those who take action and stay in the game long enough to win. I used to believe wealth was for the elite, the kind of people born into privilege, with connections, charm, and the kind of sharp intelligence that wins debates. That illusion broke the day I stood in a room filled with high earners. I expected brilliance. What I saw shocked me. One man walked onto the stage to give a presentation. He stumbled through his words. He lacked charisma. His grammar was broken. Yet he casually mentioned that his income was over $400,000 a month. At that moment, my world shifted. I realized intelligence was not the currency in that room. Something else was at play. It wasn't wit. It wasn't status. It was strategic awareness. That was the day I told myself I'd never again trade time for a paycheck. Because if someone that unpolished could win, then winning wasn't about being the smartest. It was about understanding the game. The truth is, strategy eats intelligence for breakfast. Smart people paralyze themselves with endless calculations. They drown in risk analysis. They overthink every step. Meanwhile, the person willing to take bold but calculated moves gains ground. The overly intellectual man sees 1,000 ways to fail. The Machiavellian man asks one question: will this destroy me? If not, he proceeds. That difference changes everything. Education trains people to analyze, not to act. But wealth rewards motion. Fortune favors the one who dares, while others hesitate. And this is why many brilliant people remain broke. They never leave the harbor because they fear the storm. The truth is, success requires emotional durability. It requires the willingness to endure boredom, embarrassment, and failure without quitting. When I first made money, my grammar was awful. I wasn't polished, but I had one thing others lacked: I could take punches without stopping. Intelligence without execution is useless. Better to be naive but active than clever and paralyzed. Machiavelli himself wrote that people judge more by appearances than by reality. This applies directly to wealth. If you appear confident, if you show up consistently, if you deliver value over time, the world will eventually assume you belong. And once it assumes you belong, opportunities open. The lesson is clear. Ask not if you're smart enough. Ask if you're willing to keep moving while others stall. Because money does not flow to the cleverest. It flows to those who dare act with less certainty. Wealth is not a steady paycheck. It does not trickle in with predictable timing. It arrives in bursts after long seasons of silence, and those bursts only come to those who can endure the wait. This is one of the hardest lessons for anyone trying to escape the rat race. We're conditioned to expect immediate reward. Work today, get paid Friday. But business and wealth creation follow a different rhythm. You do the work today, but the payoff may not come for months, even years. Most people can't handle this. They crumble under the weight of delayed results. But the ones who survive the droughts eventually drink from the oasis. That is the essence of compounding. It looks like nothing is happening, until suddenly everything happens at once. In my early years of building a company, I was losing money, not just slowly, but heavily. Every sign pointed toward failure. And yet, just when collapse seemed inevitable, the breakthrough arrived. Revenue exploded from zero to millions in half a year. Why? Because I stayed in the game longer than most could bear. This is what endurance creates: outsized results. It isn't about being brilliant. It's about refusing to die when things look bleak. Most people can't handle obscurity. They crave applause too early. But wealth is built in the shadows and revealed later in shock. This is why discipline matters more than raw talent. discipline is an elimination tool. It filters out those who want rewards without resilience. The reality is simple. The world is testing how long you're willing to go unseen. If you can outlast the silence, you'll outpace the competition. But endurance doesn't come from hope alone. It comes from preparation. I built what I call a break glass in case of failure fund. Not to make me rich, but to give me oxygen, to buy time, to let me take swings without desperation. Savings won't make you a billionaire, but they allow you to act boldly when others freeze. You cannot think like a king if you're worried about groceries tomorrow. Stability creates courage, and courage creates wealth. Most people say they need more money before they can act, but what they really need is more courage. Machiavelli wrote that all courses of action are risky. The real prudence lies in choosing the least dangerous risk, and the most dangerous risk of all is to stay still while your years slip away. The truth is harsh but liberating. Endurance is the real currency of wealth, not IQ, not credentials. The ability to survive longer winters than others, that is the secret. And once you grasp this, you realize something powerful. The people you admire aren't just lucky, they simply stayed in the game while others quit. The world does not pay you for effort, it pays you for value. This is a painful truth for many people. You can work 10 hours a day, grind harder than anyone you know, and still remain broke. Because if your output is replaceable, the market has no reason to reward you. Money flows toward those who solve problems others cannot or will not solve. That is the difference between endless hustle and true wealth. The man who becomes irreplaceable steps into a different economy altogether. I learned this lesson as a trainer. I hustled constantly to find clients. I tried every tactic to fill my schedule. Meanwhile, I watched others attract clients effortlessly. At first, I thought it was luck. Then I realized the truth. They weren't just trainers, they were solutions. They embodied excellence in a way that drew people in. One mentor told me, "Forget the hustle, be the best." It sounded simplistic, but over time, I saw the reality. Greatness creates gravity. When you truly master your craft, clients orbit around you. You don't chase them, they chase you. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He wrote that reputation is more powerful than armies. It's not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. In business, the same law applies. Your reputation becomes leverage. Your proof becomes your weapon. When the market sees undeniable results, demand explodes. I didn't build wealth by chasing cash. I built it by dominating categories so completely that people had no alternative. That shift from how do I get rich to how do I own this space changed everything. But there's another piece. Value is always tied to pain. The more pain you remove, the higher the value you create. I once invested in a software company that solved a problem, but the problem wasn't painful enough. The company plateaued. The same founder then launched a protein bar business. This product solved a pain millions of people hated: bad taste and bloating. That product exploded, not because it did more, but because it removed more pain. In the Machiavellian sense, power is secured, not by ruling gently, but by eliminating rivals. Likewise, a product wins not just by being good, but by making competitors irrelevant. Your wealth is measured by how completely you do this. Wealth is extracted through leverage, through mastery, through positioning. It grows in proportion to the scale of the problem you solve. The man who removes friction from a billion-dollar system earns more in a month than the man solving small local issues his entire life. But here's the key: no one starts there. You begin with small problems. You build credibility. You learn the tools, and then you climb. With each level, you not only earn more, you become more formidable. That is the path of value creation, and it is the only path the market rewards. Wealth is not earned through pride. It is earned through the willingness to do what others will not. Too many people sabotage themselves because they think certain work is beneath them. They wait for perfect conditions. They want the glamorous version of success without the grind, and they remain poor because of it. I remember working as a guide after college. I escorted an overweight guest up a hiking trail. Halfway through, he turned to me and said, "I'm just grateful there are people like you who do this kind of work." He didn't mean it as a compliment. It was a subtle insult. But instead of being offended, I smiled, because I knew something he didn't. I was willing to suffer now so that I could dominate later. That guest saw me as less, but I understood that enduring low-status work was part of my empire building. The truth is, the ones who win are rarely the proud. They are the ones willing to delay pride for power. Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. To be feared requires strength. Strength is built through discomfort. The man who avoids discomfort will never command respect. The man who refuses to serve will never be served. There is no shame in labor. The only shame is in stagnation. Another mistake people make is envy. They count other people's money instead of building their own. I once walked away from a deal because I focused on how much the other party would make. I let envy cloud my judgment. That company went on to skyrocket, far beyond what we imagined, and I was left with regret. Machiavelli warned that men judge more by appearances than by substance. I judged the deal emotionally instead of strategically, and it cost me dearly. The wealthy know that abundance is not zero-sum. Someone else getting rich does not stop you from getting rich. The king does not count another man's treasure. He counts territory. He expands his empire without subtraction. Here's another myth or idea, that mindset comes before wealth, that you must feel rich to become rich, that you must believe in yourself before you act. I didn't believe at first. I doubted myself constantly, but I copied the behaviors of those who did believe. Through action, my belief grew. Machiavelli would laugh at the idea of manifesting wealth without effort. Power is seized, never granted. Money doesn't care about intentions. It flows only to value. The man who chops wood warms his home. The man who reads about fire freezes. If you want to be wealthy, behave like someone wealthier than you. Take risk, solve harder problems, sacrifice comfort for sovereignty. Not tomorrow, now. This is the hidden truth of wealth. It does not belong to the smartest, it belongs to the boldest. It belongs to those who endure obscurity, survive winters, and act while others hesitate. Machiavelli understood power, and his lesson is clear: fortune rewards motion, not hesitation. So ask yourself, are you willing to move while others freeze? Are you willing to endure the silence that comes before the storm? Are you willing to trade pride today for power tomorrow? Because money doesn't reward intelligence. It rewards strategic endurance. It rewards courage. It rewards the ones who refuse to quit. If this message spoke to you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Psychology Insights. Here, we break down timeless principles of power, wealth, and human behavior. Stay consistent, stay strategic, and remember, the world doesn't pay you for effort. It pays you for the value you create and the courage you show.